We don't know all private equity. We haven't worked with all private equity firms. It's not countless because that's not how numbers work, though people use the word countless like that sometimes. It's a lot of them, and they cover a wide expanse from small to very large. Across that expanse, they are going to have access to either no in-house operational expertise because that's not what they do. They're an investment firm, and they're going to use friends of the firm. Sometimes they'll be past operators. Sometimes they're literally friends of the firm, folks that they went to school with sometimes, and they know they were successful CXOs at another company. And you climb up the stack. And when we started doing the due diligence for structuring this part of the company, we realized that you can get onesie twosie, and then you got a small team that's within the private equity firm, but they're oftentimes seem like a separate construct because they have a very different perspective. Their lens on the world is very different, right? And then you've got consulting groups that spun out of large private equity firms that are now adjacent. It's almost like it's a farm team for that company. And so there's no one way to really solve this problem. But when I was starting to talk to companies about becoming an operating partner, and when Jim had started talking to them, and I think Joe had the similar conversations, while I think that we all have tremendous skills in our discipline areas, one of the things that we felt was consistent was a word that you mentioned, Jim, which is team. If you go and you just put an operator in, let's say that you've made an investment in a firm, it's a tech firm, and the CEO is the founder, and he or she is very bright and had all sorts of vision and got this thing from zero to here, which is an admirable thing to have done. But quite often, that's not the right person in that role to take it from here to where the private equity company sees it going for their exit. And so that's a really, really touchy space. Now, it's not always the CEO. Sometimes it's bringing in a new head of sales or marketing. Sometimes it's a CFO. You never know exactly which piece may need a different perspective. And oftentimes we use words like a boost or a lift. And so it becomes a slight on the person who's being moved to a different chair. All of those things require rapid trust creation. So if you airdrop one executive into a team, it is heavy lifting for that person to all of a sudden turn around a team that was sometimes brought together by the person that's being replaced to now trust the vision of the one. So when we were talking over drinks one night, we said, well, wouldn't it be better if you brought in an entire team, like a panel, not to replace these folks, but to augment, enhance, coach, right? So maybe if you talk about your traditional stack, right, your CEO, your COO, your CFO, and your CIO, right? And since I came from Microsoft, apparently I use acronyms for everything, but executive, operating, finance, and information. And instead of just replacing one of them and hoping you guessed right, and that person is going to be the incredible spark that you needed to get this company moving in the direction that you needed it. It's not necessarily right or wrong. It may be different or faster, right? Those are very real possibilities. If instead you brought in a team that could work with that team, bolster their strengths and enhance, or bolster their weaknesses and enhance their strengths. And then you may find out that there's a great spot there, but you don't do that until you're further down the road. And this is how we address it in our lean forward methodology. We have a continuum of advisory services, consultative services, and then partnership services, because you can't possibly start with the solution. That is inherently a flawed direction.